They say, go live. We are live.
We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Doing Bits Live with me, Eshaan Akbar, and Vittorio Angelone.
Hello, guys. How's it going?
Nice to
Good.
see you. If you're on the YouTube channel, please do ask questions. Don't be shy. Ask questions of our guest today. And boy, are we excited. What a guest! What a guest! Well done, Vittorio. This is a coup and a half. It's Jarlath Regan. Yeah! Jarlath, how are you?
Yes. Hello. How are you doing, lads?
Good. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to have you with us.
It's good to be on. This is like I have a massive reluctance to do these kind of things, to be honest
Uh,
with you. First of any type of live chat like this.
yeah.
Um because look, there's so many crap ones. I love your one because it's like this is a really interesting concept that you're doing
Yeah.
here. And you saw that Mike Birbiglia robbed it on you and is doing it in New York with New York comedians.
Fucking bastards.
Yeah.
No, but it's such a good topic and such a good way of focusing it rather than it being a rambly
Mm.
Instagram live or a YouTube live. So I love it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That is exactly what we wanted. We wanted to chat to comedians. And for those of you who are new to the podcast and to the YouTube, Doing Bits Live is a show where we speak to some of our favorite comedians and legendary comedians like Jarlath and talk to them about that very thing, recreate what happens in the green room, because now we've missed out performing live. And normally we'd have these kind of conversations in green rooms. And we get to talk about the ideas that Vittorio says are
Quarantined in our brains.
quarantined in our brains. So we lift we lifted the lockdown. We talk about those ideas. I always start with a disclaimer on this stuff that when we have ideas that are underformed or not completely there, sometimes our brains take us to quite dark places. So there's a very real possibility you'll get offended. And do you know what? Fuck you, innit?
Why is there a very real possibility that they'll get offended?
It's
Is
just,
that because you want it to be free form, everybody saying whatever? Is that it?
Yeah, basically,
I
yeah.
think
I
it's
want
just
to
that
be, yeah,
freedom. I think you have to be allowed to be clunky to
yeah,
come out
Mm,
with, like, you go in with a clunky and rough around the edges
yeah.
idea and then work out how to come at it in a more
But yeah,
sophisticated
there's a
way.
whole, isn't there? There is a whole discussion there, right? In like you're saying, Ishan, that this is a sacred space, and this is you're kind of imposing what is understood between comics when they drive in cars to
yeah,
Mm.
places that
yeah,
we're all attempting to get to the funny and the end justifies the means, and nothing you say can or will be used against you
yeah,
in the court
Yeah.
of public opinion. Now that is tricky, right?
yeah.
Because the viewers are going to get a certain amount of honesty, but I can never be as honest as I am in a car on a way to a
Uh,
gig or in a green room. I'll do my best though.
the car is probably after the stage the most sacred place to a comedian. I think.
It's
I love it.
also
I
a
love it.
very, very fragile balance of egos and
It can go all
personalities
wrong.
and
Yes.
bastards.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
nothing
but
worse than a
the
4 hour drive to Mansfield with someone you don't like.
but is there anything better when the person you don't like gets out?
Oh, it's beautiful. Uh,
And everyone agrees that that person is not someone you need to.
like the car itself relaxes. Oh, thank God. It
Yeah,
just,
Even the
weirdly,
car, yeah, just suspension
I've
goes
never
down.
been in that situation. I've only heard of it. I've only been the one to get out and then hear them cheering as they drive away.
oh, brilliant.
So,
Oh my
Jarlath, we were
god.
talking about this earlier before we went live. So, tell us what you miss about live stand up.
Well, that's one. Definitely, like the people would say they don't miss the travel, but I do. I kind of enjoy all of that. That because I do a bunch of things, including I'm a dad and create podcasts. That the comedy then becomes the part of the day where you go and relax and you
Yeah.
get in the car and it's just like oh just that sense of leaving everything behind and knowing right I've only got one thing to do here and that is it to where I'm going and make people laugh. And that I miss that I miss all of it, but I would say that's one. That is one that I miss. It's just going and the process of getting to where you're going, which I know is an unusual answer because a lot of people are like, no, the crack backstage or staying in a nice hotel. But I guess I spent a long time hating a lot of it, and then started to get into the idea that you do need to love every bit of it in order to survive it, because there's so much of what stuff is making do, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think we're weirdly suited to quarantine, because so much of your job is, okay, hey, yeah, they're shit-faced, they're absolutely, yeah, that guy is going to kick off any minute, but we can make this work. And you're back there as a team going, we'll make this work. Just don't talk to them. You do so much of making do that when I got put in lockdown like everyone else, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly felt like I can make this work. I can make this work, even though you have this huge chunk of your income disappear overnight, and your job maybe disappear as a thing that people do.
I kind of just had the thought of like, I have to make this work.
I have to make this work.
There's
that
no
is
option.
It as well.
That's always been it with me. Because
there is no option. You can't go on. You can't go on stage and go, oh, you have to make it work.
Yeah.
You have to. There's an imperative, right?
The thing is, it's interesting that you say this, because I think we all know comedians who probably aren't making this work or don't know how to. How long have you been performing? How long have you been a comedian?
I left my job in 2006. I say left. They told me to leave.
yeah, important.
Yeah. They were like, yeah. Then I left. When they said, fuck off, I went, that's a really good idea.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
2006. And I remember it vividly because, you know, I think when you're in your 20s, you will go, there's loads of shit, Vittorio, that you're doing right now that when you're in your late 30s, you'll go, and I thought that was I thought that was all okay. And I'm so
glad he directed that at you, Vittorio, and not me.
Yeah.
It's because you're old.
Well, you've also got your shit way more together.
Thank you. I'm glad you understand the dynamic of this.
After the podcast, if you want to let me know anything you're spotting, then...
No, like I was overcharging clients by tens of thousands, and then there'd be a big chat, like a group chat about everybody needing to tighten up and get a better attention to detail. And I didn't realize who were talking to me and me alone. They weren't talking to anybody else. So I think I had about 20 chances, and I left the job, and they let me go. They let me go in January 2006. That's quite a while ago, isn't it?
So had you never done? You'd been on stage while working there, or no?
I had done. I guess I was at open spot level around then.
Okay.
And I was doing a bit of writing for a well-known Irish comedian, and he was touring that material, which was really hard.
That's tricky. I've always wondered about that.
Who was touring in 2006? Irish. There can't be many.
It was booming at the time. It was booming, and I wrote these jokes, and he was very supportive and a really, really good person. And I won't say his name just because I don't think it's cool to say who you wrote for. That's not part of the deal. And but it was like watching someone play with your kids in the park, and you're not allowed to be there. Like he was having the time of his life in front of thousands of people with my jokes. And you know, your first bits that really fly, you have a real connection to those bits, right? I think if I asked the two of you right now, you'd know first joke you wrote that you were like, that works. That actually works.
I do appreciate the
Redid
analogy,
those.
but I also the idea of someone else enjoying your kids.
It's a bad one. Yeah, it's hard. That's a hard one to. It's like I always say, my best friend is 9 years old, and that's only okay to say to your son. But yeah, that it definitely felt like either your kids or your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. Okay.
But then you didn't bring your ex-girlfriend into being. These were my bits, and he was performing them. And so when I got let go, it was my girlfriend and then now wife who saw me at my computer when she came back into the house. She's going, "What you doing?" I got let go. I'm looking for another job. And she was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You know exactly what you want to do."
Yeah.
And she was right. Yeah, that we all know that comedians are pretending to be normal people when they're in jobs, and then when somebody pulls the mask off you, my wife, then girlfriend, had the sense to know, stop pretending and just do it.
But it is scary. That's a scary thing it's quite a vulnerable place to say, to set out your stall and go, this is what I want to do, and I believe in myself to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I don't think I took in what a joke comedians are to other people, because I thought they were so brilliant.
Yeah.
And I can remember being like, yeah, I'm going to be a comedian. And then suddenly I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can't actually believe that I'm going to do this. Not knowing that there were a bunch of people going, you what? Like, like they really saw it as the lowest rung of the entertainment ladder. I can remember two incidents in particular. An uncle I met for the first time in a couple of years, told him what I was doing, and he really looked at me down his nose, like, oh, in a real kind of look of, your parents must be so disappointed. And then another incident in London, actually, when I got invited over to do a gig in London at a university, one of my first gigs, and this dude was just like, he just couldn't comprehend that this is what I'd done with 5 years in university education.
Irish people really are the Asians of white people, aren't they?
100%. I've been saying this for years, and people shout at me.
No wonder I felt such affinity. I was like, you get this.
Yeah. You obviously had that too, right?
I mean, I had a career in banking and government and all sorts, and I left banking, frontline banking, in 2006, actually.
Frontline banking? You're not a key worker. Come on.
Yeah. Frontline.
There's a definition.
Do you mean like you were working as a cashier?
No, that's what I meant. That's what I described it as, frontline banking. But there you go. In terms of like being in the city, I left properly in 2006. And until about 3 months ago, someone asked my dad what I do for a living, and he said, well, he used to be a banker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still something that everyone's trying to.
Well, I've had quite an easy switch, because I went from unemployed classical percussionist
to unemployed comedian.
So if anything, it's a step up. I think maybe
classical percussionist.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Like, the guys at the back of the orchestra with the triangle and the cymbals.
That's with you.
That's what I trained in for 4 years.
He trained in it, Jarlath. He trained in the triangle.
That's my.
So there's more to it than that, because
yes,
you
there's the timpani and the xylophone and there's marimbas and the chimes. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, but the general, your standard orchestral repertoire is a lot of counting bars rest and playing the triangle.
I love how you talk about orchestra like it's a car. Your standard orchestral, your standard this.
Your standard orchestra. It's art.
It's very boring art. That's
your
why
standard oil painting.
So what are you looking forward to when this is all done? So once we're out of this, which we will be hopefully, in terms of stand-up, is there a particular place or thing that you're looking forward to doing in terms of stand-up?
So there's two possible answers here. This is never done. That's the first answer.
The
This
world
is
has
never
changed
done.
forever.
We used to do a thing that no longer exists. It'll be like saying you were a comedian. Will be like saying used to be a chimney swipe. You know, it's not. It's not going to be a profession that exists anymore.
I feel
This
like
is going to be something we look back on and we go, remember when comedians used to be in clubs instead of just on Instagram Live? There is a part of me that wonders if what format comedy clubs could exist in again. And that's just the part of me that just thinks we're all booked. The part of me that goes to bed doesn't think about it all day, and then at 11 o'clock allows it to wash over me like a wave in my bed, where I stay staring at the ceiling for the rest of the night with a pain in my chest. That's one answer, right? Look, the thing I'll look forward to the most is just being able to be in that kind of pre-show or after-show moment together. The hang, like comedy is all about the hang. Like it's nearly why you do it, is the hang. It's why comics bring acts on the road. It's because there's this lovely, like, we're hanging out with the funniest people in the world.
Yeah.
It's like Nate Bargatze said, and his wife said, "You never laugh at my jokes." And he said, "I'm hanging out with fucking comedians."
I'm hanging out with Dave Attell. Do you want to shut up for a second?
Yeah, like it is a privilege that getting to, like, people go, oh, comedians aren't awful boring when you hang out with them. Yeah, when you hang out with them.
Yeah.
That's what I miss. That's what I'm really looking forward to getting back to.
But that camaraderie, you're right, because I started comedy 2 months before my mum passed away, and I know that I would do gigs because I was surrounded by, well, they were open micers, so they weren't that funny, but they were trying to be funny. And it was that energy and that spirit that actually stopped me from drinking, to be honest, because what I wanted to do was go out and just drink, but all these comics were there just trying to make me laugh.
Yeah, and there is that. Even if you're backstage with somebody who doesn't make you laugh, you're still all pointed in the one direction.
Did you see that?
Ultimately,
did you see the Dave Chappelle documentary?
Yes.
The speech
the
at the
Mark
Kennedy
Twain
Center where he said, like, we watch you guys fight, but in the green room we like talk it out, and we like can disagree in funny ways and in interesting ways. And I thought that was really interesting. That it is a different. We attack things in a more. It is that thing of like.
Did you just have a sneaky pick of your nose there, just for?
We attack things in a different way, where it's like, because like it's like we were saying before we came on, where it's like
Did it again there.
Always, it's a tick. You come through this like this rough around the edges idea, and we tackle big ideas because we want to talk about stuff that's resonating with people. So we gain this ability to feel comfortable talking about like traditionally scary topics, but like allowing yourself to go through the scary bit to find some common ground or to find some kind of angle on it.
Do you feel that? Because I feel like there's when I, like, the last few gigs that I did in clubs, I felt more and more like we weren't being allowed to go there, and that maybe it was just my own kind of fatigue with the whole thing, that I'd written a show, I was happy with that show, and the kind of end of Edinburgh feeling where it's like, look, I know what I want here. I know what I've written, and I know the way I like to play this instrument. But then when you go into clubs, they expect you to play whatever version of the instrument that you've created. They expect you to do hooks and play kind of jingles or ringtones. Whereas, you've figured out how to play longer tunes.
When you say they've chosen that, do you mean the audience or the comedy club?
Yeah, I think the audience, that like I was having some bad experiences, but like more and more I was finding myself crossing dates out of the diary because I was like, I kind of at the point where I was like, I can't go there anymore now. I can't. I don't know if I can play that room anymore because I've played those like rougher rooms for a long time, and I think that like there's a load of talk, isn't there, about how you've gotta earn your stripes, take your lumps, and feel like you can play any room. But there's diminishing returns at a certain point. At a certain point, you figure out how to play a really difficult room. And then after a while of doing that, you stop just learning how to survive and you start becoming an act that plays those rooms. And that's not a good place to be.
Can you explain what you mean by those rooms? Are they rooms which are rowdy? Are they rooms which are woke? Are they rooms, what do you mean by those rooms?
Yes, I mean, I guess it can be any room. It just depends on the crowd and the moment and the time that you go there, right? That like you could be in a room that is, comedy fans and really savvy, up for it, take us with you wherever you want to go. And then another night, the exact same room could be filled with gobshites who just are not having it, are just only after one thing. And so I guess I'm not referring to specific places. I'm referring to kind of the way crowds were in clubs when I was for the last year or so when I was in clubs and before all of this happened. It's so funny to talk about it in the past tense because if you think about it, comedy has stopped. Like there's a plug, there's a cork put in the bottle, and when you go back in there, when we head back into clubs after this, there's a massive elephant in the room. Like let's say we assume that this does come back at some point in the next 6 months, which I regard as unlikely. You can't just go back doing jokes about that wedding that you went to. What wedding that you went to? That was fucking. You're talking about a wedding you went to 8 months. Everything's going to be contextualized by this, right? So then I've got like my wife's in a lot of moms groups. I deliberately am not in any kind of thing like community groups like that, but I get all the feedback through them, right? And often there's great source material in there, but one big thing that keeps coming back is I won't want to go and see a show about this. When this is over, I'll want to go to something that's not about this. And I got really pissed off when I heard that because I was like, see, they're saying they don't want art about this huge landmark in our history. And it's bollocks. It's utter bollocks because that's where the greatest art comes from, misery and pain. And equally, that's where the best comedy comes from. Absolute fucking drudgery, darkness, and somebody contextualizing your pain that you're feeling in this moment in a club on a stage where you don't feel alone anymore. We will be on us to do that from here. So who knows what the fuck clubs are going to look like when we go back.
Where was your last gig? Do you remember?
Last club gig was Vittorio gig.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was the 14th of March. I was doing the Tabernacle with my solo show Notions 11 in Notting Hill at 8 o'clock. And I went to Vittorio's gig beforehand he had asked me to do it, and I just popped in there and did a little bit before him. What was interesting was all I did to start the show was with my laser thermometer, I took the temperatures of different people in the room to see who had coronavirus. And it went down so well, right, Vittorio?
Yeah.
It went down so well as a bit. Vittorio was kind enough to film it and put it up online for me because I walked away going, that's going to be a big bit. That's actually going to work. and now it's fucked. But then maybe it will be a big bit forever because we'll never be clear of this virus until there's a vaccine. I'll be able to pick people out in the room. The laser thermometer, lads. If you don't have one, get one, because you can take your temperatures of your neighbors, of a cat walking by. You need to have one in your life. They're amazing. So it's a little gun.
Yeah. Where'd you get it from?
Amazon for tenner.
Amazon.
Tenner? I thought they would be expensive.
Yeah, I thought they'd be more expensive.
No. This was pre-lockdown. So
does it say the same temperature?
I also bought a table tennis table, but they didn't deliver that.
Does it say the same temperature for everyone though?
No, I'm absolutely
for a tenner. 37.6.
No. It's pretty accurate, pretty solid. It's definitely a good piece of kit.
Now, if you're on YouTube, please don't be shy. Please do ask questions. So let's
You're
get into
saying
it,
there's
then.
no questions?
Not as of yet.
Not as of yet. There will be nice expansive
because
conversation.
we normally get the same question. We've got the same question for like a fair few episodes where someone has gone, "How do you feel being a brown comedian?" But we can't ask you that, Jarlath. It's not. Like...
How do you feel? Oh my
How do you feel, Jarlath?
And it's the same person.
It's the same person as Tez and Aaron McCann as well.
How do you feel? Like, not even what does it feel like to be? How do you feel to be a brown comedian?
I wake up with the burden of being a brown comedian every day.
yeah. Wake up. Like what? That person is quite an existential, metaphysical question. What does it feel like? What is the feeling of brownness?
What is it? What does it feel like?
I know what pinkness is. What's brownness like? Is brownness a feeling? Maybe this guy's way ahead of us. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe yes. What is it? Is it synesthesia where you can taste? No, that's where you taste numbers.
You can't taste races, Eshaan.
Just licking people you don't like.
Oh Lord.
Jarlath,
ask your questions. If anybody has questions, do ask them, because I feel dozens and dozens of questions from my 9-year-old son on a daily basis now. Like that, if anyone has any parenting questions, please fire ahead with those, because we are in the middle of the whole parenting a challenge at the moment is on another level, right? Because there's a whole another battle going on. It's not really being talked about, right? And it is homeschooling. There's loads of parents who are not doing it at all and claiming to do it, and then there's loads of parents who are claiming they're not doing it, and in the meantime they're drilling it into their kids because they know this is the opportunity to get their kid ahead. Now our lad at the moment is an unbelievable child. He's a complete anomaly who gets up to do Joe Wicks at 9 in his PE gear, straight out of bed. Joe Wick. He's been up for an hour reading history prior to that. He reads history books. It's ridiculous. History book out, reading that for an hour. Does this Joe Wicks? He does homeschool till 3:30 in the afternoon. He didn't take a midterm break because he said it would be better to have a structure and feel like the weekends means.
How old is he?
It would be
9 years old.
He sounds like a freak. I love him.
He is a freak. He's also he does take, like, my wife is a school teacher. That's the other thing. So she's well able to handle this and has formulated a system that works. And on his breaks, because we got Disney Plus, he is working his way diligently through each and every episode of The Simpsons.
Oh, so God.
He has 600 episodes worked through in lockdown. So on the one hand, super, super serious. And then he's on his break when you can hear him screaming with laughter and cackling, rolling around the floor at the funniest comedy show he'll probably ever see. So he's getting an education from every angle in comedy and in history and academics. It's a joy to watch.
I always wonder with comedians who've got kids around that age, do they have a sense of what it is that you do for a living? And do they understand it, and do they want to do it?
His world's all fucked up. There's no question about that. Like, like I heard him say to his friends, "My daddy's a podcaster and comedian."
That's just weird, isn't it?
Even I went, "What?"
Jesus.
Like, don't say that. Don't say that, Mike. No, like that's his normal. Like he came to see me perform for the first time. The very first time was at a festival, right, in a big tent. But the first time he ever was at the Palladium when I recorded live at the Palladium, and he was suited and booted,
Oh,
and I could
class.
see his little thumbs through the balcony, giving me the thumbs up while I was doing the 7-minute spot on the telly. And from that point forward, he thought when Daddy went to do his show, he was going to the Palladium.
Quite the high benchmark to set for a first time, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, look, he's
It's
never
like taking a
been
girl to
disabused of
Nando's
that
for a
notion.
first date. The only way is down after that, isn't it?
Yeah. But he's still like, he is a bit. He's getting more and more clued into it. But in answer to your question, does he want to do it? Like, I always talk to him about what he wants to do with his life, and it never, ever comes up as an option.
I mean, given his educational passion, comedian would maybe be a waste.
Well, yeah. I mean, he like, look, what do you want for your kid?
Oh,
you want
God.
the same thing we have.
Yeah.
You want to be doing something that doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have the day off all the time, and I'm busting my arse. I feel like I've got the day off. That's the truth. Like if he gets that, then he won the lottery, right?
Yeah.
And if even if in a lockdown he's fucked and all his income's gone, still he hit the jackpot.
So let's talk about material now.
Should we do? We've got a couple of questions that are maybe relevant now.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Patrick McAllister, who was an attendee at that South Ken gig, and I'll just read it out word for word, but it's a bit rough around the edges. It begins, "Fuck Jarlath. I went and told my girlfriend about his bit at the Irishman gig where you shouldn't make a noise when lifting your partner, and she started shouting at me for making noise when I left her."
Oh shit! No. Yeah. So the joke is you should never make a sound of any sort when attempting to lift up your girlfriend, which is a fair point, right? But you don't make that joke, Patrick, to your girlfriend. Fucking dope.
Funny.
Oh god.
Did you say there's another
What's
one?
the other one?
Yeah, there's another one. Do hecklers get on your tits, or do you not mind being heckled?
I welcome it. I'm like, go for it.
It is
Go
part
for
of
your
the
life.
art form, I guess.
Well, I fucking love it. But like, that's like saying, like, I think saying, "Oh, I don't like hecklers," is like saying, I don't like people being at the shows, because that's the spontaneous element. You could write the fucking best thing you've ever written, and then somebody walks in wearing a weird jacket and you comment on it. That's what everybody will remember when they go home. But like, that's the truth of it. If you can embrace the spontaneity of somebody, you hold all the power as well. How do you feel about this?
I guess there's a line where, because I'm quite crowd worky, I do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I'm always kind of like, I like a little bit of back and forward, and I like kind of that feeling of the wheels turning, especially if you're doing like a tight set that you know the ins and outs of. It like when something happens in the room, I feel like my brain lights up and goes, "Oh, you have to think now, and you have to like and go through a bit quicker." But then there's that point of like, you do the interaction, you get a few laughs, you kind of close it off, and then you work your way back into something, and then it happens again, and you go, "Oh, okay," and then you go back in, and then someone just gets overexcited, and maybe you've indulged them too much, and they feel like they're obligated.
I guess that's
to
the
kind
qualifier, isn't it? If it's a good heckle, by all means.
Oh yeah, if you're getting laughs, I don't
Yeah.
care. Like as long as
Yeah.
there's laughs.
Yeah, let's go. But like, I think it took me about 10 years to really settle into that idea of this is good, this is not bad when that happens. And when when I stop being afraid of that, it's a lot easier, right?
I really enjoy a heckle because, especially when you're doing club sets, like you try and throw a bit of new material in there, but sometimes a heckle will change the dynamic of a particular
Mm.
gig. But I also don't like those comics who just use the first time you've been heckled as a stick to beat the heckler with to say, I'm working and you stopped me.
Oh,
Because I don't think you've then dealt with the heckle, because I think audiences do want to see. That's the magic of comedy, isn't it? Like Paul Smith was able to sell an arena tour off the back of just saying, "What do you do, mate?"
yeah, yeah.
So people
And
still see it
yeah,
as
there's obviously
magic.
more to what Paul does than that, but I know
Yeah.
what you mean. That like that's a whole genre of comedy.
You look at that the Andrew Schultz, the crowd work special.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a millions of views on YouTube.
yeah. And I mean, look, Ross Noble, Darrow Breen, Jason Byrne, even Russell Howard. In fact, Michael McIntyre, when he used to host Late and Live, the thing that people spoke about was his ability to go to the crowd and then come back and appear to have material spontaneously from that interaction.
Yeah.
And that's what
One of my
gave it the spontaneity.
one of my favorite specials, Patrice O'Neill, Elephant in the Room.
Yeah.
Almost
Oh.
every bit comes out of the crowd. Like almost every
Yeah.
single one. It just and that means the hour just goes. It just goes so
He
fast,
was,
and
he
you're just
is,
like, oh, it was
he's on the
amazing.
Mount Rushmore, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, 100%.
Oh, amazing.
So let's talk about material then. How do you normally write and test your material if you weren't on lockdown? What would you be doing?
Multiple different ways, right? So writing down notes all the time. Then doing free writing. So just writing, and see where the thought goes. And notes, and then a lot of the best stuff I find comes out of talking things out with my wife. Because
Okay.
I don't see too many people. I realized that when I went into lockdown. I don't this isn't that different from my normal life. It definitely my interaction with people and other people is at gigs. So for half an hour before and after, and then I'm just back here. Like I just here writing and podcasting or whatever. So I talk to my wife an awful lot, and she is very funny. She's like I always say that if you are dating someone and they are not making you laugh, get the fuck out.
That's the game.
Now.
Like that is.
That's a deal breaker, right? Because
I hope my
everything
girlfriend's
else is gonna fade.
You can lift her game up a bit.
Sort your shit out, yeah.
Hey, Eshaan,
Yeah,
where are you going to go? It's lockdown.
Oh, man.
You
Yeah,
dickhead,
so
right?
yeah, so yeah, with her, that's it. Those methods. That's
And
how
is
I do it.
that dedicated where you say, "Can I run some ideas with you," or is that just in conversation?
Yeah, sometimes I'll just go, "What do you think of this?" But more often than not, like there's a joke in the special that I filmed just before the lockdown about how the only people that like coronavirus are Harry and Meghan. And that just totally started out of this was suddenly the news, whereas a week before it was Harry and Meghan are awful people. They're terrible. Aren't they the worst? And then suddenly coronavirus, and they were like off the hook. So we talked that bit out to the point of like, what did they do wrong? Just kind of talking out the sense of what did they do wrong? I mean, there isn't, I don't know anyone that hasn't gone home for Christmas and by the end of it said, I want to distance myself from my family.
Yeah.
They can go fuck themselves. I'm never going here again. I'm moving to Canada. Okay, everybody. Like that created this like 10-minute long opening bit to the whole special. And that all just emerged over coffee, shooting the shit. And then literally, because my style is very conversational, and in that kind of Bill Burr way, like Bill Burr says that everyone can tell a story. If somebody gets hit by a car in a car crash and they come into the dinner table and they go, "Why are you late?" They'll tell the story, make the room laugh. And then if somebody else arrives, they'll have to tell it again. So in that way, I try and take that chat and literally have that chat with the audience, which is another reason why live YouTube gigs, they just aren't going to work.
No.
Does your wife ever want
back and forth?
Does your wife ever want credit for the ideas that you end up with, or
how would she even get it?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I do give her credit in the sense that I would, like at every opportunity, I thank her, because like really the life of a wife or girlfriend of a comedian, or in the case of a female comic, the boyfriend, it's not an easy life. Like it's not fun. It's not good crack. It's the amount of fucking sacrifice and the amount of nonsense that they put up with. And the moodiness, like lads, let's face it, the moodiness is...
Oh God, when I have a bad set, I'm depressed until I have a good set.
Yeah, but sure, it doesn't even matter that. Like, I'd be annoyed, like, even if it's going well. Just annoyed it's not going better. Like, in fact, it's more annoying when it's going really well and nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I should be getting somewhere.
Yeah. So like, there's no winning, and she never like wants me to say that's Tina's joke, but if it is her joke, I'll give it to her. Like, she has given me so many lines that are just her, like literally just me saying, like I had a line that she's the only person in the world, and this is true, she's the only woman I've ever known who has responded to the sentence, "I couldn't love you anymore," with the sentence, "Try." That's Irish women, though. That is Irish women.
Oh, no bullshit.
Literally
absolutely
ruthless.
They're different. I find that when did either of you watch Love Island at all?
No.
So when Maura came on, all these English people were like, "I've never seen anything like it," and all of us were like, "What? That's all? Yeah, no, that's all
I
Irish
did a whole
women?"
bit about that.
Why, what'd she do? What's her story? What did she do? What's she like?
She was like, you know, the most brutally honest, take no shit, shoot from the hip, and I guess crude, people said at times, but like, to me, she was just the most identifiable character. I couldn't recognize anybody else other than her, because I'm not saying I'm married to Maura Higgins, but there's definitely aspects of Maura Higgins that are within my wife. And like, Irish guys have get told to fuck off every single time they approach a girl until the age of probably 21.
Right.
I mean, they're brutal. Just for saying hello, fuck off. You can fuck off. And Tina, my wife, maintains that we don't just say hello. That's the whole thing. But like, Irish lads think they're going, "How are you doing? What's the crack with you?" Whereas in reality, we're walking up going, "Hey, oh, look at me, look at me."
Or actually,
I'm talking to you.
In my experience, teenage Irish boys like, "Will you shift him? Will you?"
Yeah, and their response is, "I am talking to my friend." "I know you're talking to me." Yeah, so like, we're not exactly Casanovas.
Jarlath, before we went live, you were telling us about your wall, the wall where you are testing out or writing material for your new show. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah,
give us an MTV Crib style look at your wall.
This is where the magic happens, guys. You've got those stick-on whiteboards. They're class.
Yeah, the little stick-on whiteboards are something that Sharon Horgan told me about,
So good.
and I was working on Motherland with them in a writer's room, and
Right.
yeah, these little bits of plastic, they stick to the wall by
Static.
static electricity, and they turn your whole wall into a whiteboard. So all of that. Then the end is the old show, and then everything up this way is the new show. So the old show
Right.
was shot on the 6th of March in Dublin, and now it's just a case of going through this stuff and seeing what's in it. But like I say, it's so hard to write, isn't it, lads? It is so hard to write at the moment because nothing is fixed, nothing's set, and anything that you write about now could be absolutely irrelevant next week. And also, how the challenge of, I find anyway, being sensitive to what is a massive tragedy is hard too. Like, what can you take the piss out of? And but I worry about that way too much. I really worry about upsetting people.
Because
And
I watched your Girls with Goals interview, and you said on there that like there was a point that came up about like the kind of the how, what it is to be a comedian at the minute, with people the party line being people are very easily offended, people get offended at everything, and I find it
yeah,
that this difficult thing where who who are you looking at to decide who is rightfully offended? Because some people are offended by swear words, and
Yeah.
we kind of disregard them as, oh, but that's silly. But then there's a point of like some people are offended by racist jokes, and then, but we're like, yeah, you shouldn't be racist. But then there's a whole kind of area in between where it's like, okay, we're gonna swear even though some people don't like it. And then there's all this stuff like, how do you decide when upsetting one person is valid, or do you just base it on your own
Yeah.
sensibilities?
yeah. And so, what did I say in that interview?
You said that if you're struggling to write joke, like why do you want to hurt
Yeah,
people? Why are you
I knew
writing
you'd like
jokes?
this line. Yeah, because like that line is that if you can't write stuff without hurting people,
Hmm.
without a victim, well, then I do think you need to take a look at how you're doing this. Because to me, uh, as you say, the victim that I'm referring to there has to be above, right? It has to be a punch up. It can't be a punch down, and that's really what I was referring to. That like there's 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 obviously a punchline and a person in a joke that is, the fool, but I find that my clown, I'm the fool, right? So in that way, that's what works for me. But whenever you get asked those questions, and in any kind of interview about what is this, what's right, you're only talking about you.
Mm.
You really are only talking about you, and that nearly needs to be stated as a preface to everything you're saying. Like, while I was saying you need to take a look at how you're doing this, uh, I do mean that in reference to myself more than anything, because I'm not comedy police.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're free to do whatever the fuck way you like. But what I don't like is when you're getting judged is a way to do it. That like you're doing it wrong.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I'm totally opposed to that. So I was afraid that comment came across as if I was saying there's a right and a wrong way to do this. But whereas more so the point I was making was that Todd Phillips with the Joker had said that it was impossible to make movies now that were funny because of how sensitive it was. That's bollocks.
Yeah, it's just
Bollocks. You're
that's
telling me
him.
the palette is the fucking canvas is so broad that if you can't create something that is funny without it causing such offense that your movie gets called into question, then you do need to think maybe my humor is the problem here. Maybe my humor is the problem. But then that Joker movie is an example of how they can't even forget comedy. They can't even character movie made. Like that was Taxi Driver 2.0,
Mm.
and they couldn't get that movie made. But when they put it under the banner of comic book superhero, it got made. And he completely pulled a fast one on them, essentially, by dressing the character movie as the Joker.
Yeah.
And that was the genius of it.
So linked to that then, are there topics that are off limits for you, or would you be willing to joke about anything?
Definitely. There all the way through. For me, there's been things that I couldn't joke about, and for me, and I always say this, for me, it's been a process of learning how to and developing the skills to be able to. Look, we can all make jokes about anything. Question is, can you do it skillfully enough that it's warranted or it's worthwhile? So you can make a Holocaust joke, but you can make a cheap one. Like, it actually goes back to when I was writing for that comedian at the start, that I did a Holocaust joke for him. I wrote one down, and he was like, if we're going to bring that in the room, we need it to be worth it. And that's the question. So the stuff that's off limits for me is off limits because I don't have the skill to tackle it, or I haven't found the way in which to get it. So I guess the truth is nothing's off limits, but some beyond reach.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that, like, I really struggled with writing about my family to an extent, because I think my family is very prideful, and they, to an extent, don't like being the butt of the joke at all. They don't understand whether they're the butt of the joke or not. That's been a real struggle that way. And then I've gone through all kinds of thoughts there of, well, would you criticize Bruce Springsteen for writing songs about his family? Of course not. But because their jokes were seen as ridiculing. And I've quizzed a number of people about this, a number of writers, and they've similarly had issues with that very thing, that do you bring your family in? When you bring your family in, they didn't volunteer to be part of this. That's tricky. Like I talked to Ramesh about this, and because he does so many jokes about his kids, specifically one of his kids being a nightmare.
Oh, I don't. Oh.
Just couldn't give the opportunity up. Couldn't let it pass. But I do worry that, like, I did a joke in the special I just filmed about finding a pair of underpants on my kid's floor with skid marks in them. Right. And even that tiny joke, I worry that that's going to be out there for his friends to ridicule him with in years to come. So that kind of shit worries me. That kind of shit does worry me.
So let's now play the role of Tina for a bit, and you can talk to us about a bit that you've been trying to work on or have struggled with, or whatever it might be, and see if Vittorio and I can give you the kind of wisdom that your wife likes. Definitely
not, but we'll try.
Well, I remember somebody saying that there's jokes. I think it was Dane Cook, who, by the way, right? Has anybody even thought about Dane Cook in all of this Louis C.K. stuff? Dane must be like, nobody's talked about. Dane must have thrown a fucking party when that shit came out. He's like, oh, the fucking sweet revenge for him. But he said a very interesting thing, that I wouldn't take a whole load of Dane's advice, but this was interesting. There's a joke in every comics notebook that he's too afraid to try. That's the one you should be trying.
Yeah.
I think that's really true. Anytime I've gone, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try that tonight. It's always produced good things, right?
Right, yeah.
So the bit that I have up here that I don't know. I'm so scared of it. Like,
Go on.
I'm really afraid of it. I don't want to build it up too much because it's still very rough.
Mm.
But it's the question that maybe men are doing themselves out of a lot of sex by making it so freely available. Like the concept is that it's supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they don't want to have sex with you because you are always on broadband. If anything, actually, you are O2. You are always emailing them, going, "Do you want to change your tariff? How about now? How's about now? Would you? Hey, calling out the windows, like texting. Yeah, we did a little sex. Like, oh, she bent over. What? Oh, hey. I mean, if you make it that readily available, there's no chase, right?
Yeah, there's no value.
Yeah, there's no value in you actually being up for it because they just think, oh, well, sure, you'd be out humping a bush if I didn't say yes right now.
Right.
But men will always knock on the door. Men will always knock on the door. And even if the lights are off in the house, men will knock on the door. Just check something. Maybe someone's home. I'll just knock on the door. And sometimes there is someone home, and that's what makes men keep knocking on the door. Sometimes there is someone home, and sometimes there's someone home, but they've still got the door on the chain. So that's a bit in a kind of its loosest, fluffiest, kind of rambliest form, because I just think there's something there that I don't think has been addressed before, in the sense of the difference in libido between men and women.
Okay.
Is like it's such a tricky one, right? Without coming across, it's such a hard one to write because you don't want to come across a certain way, and you can get it wrong. Like I think those are the jokes that really appeal to me, because you have to really try and backflip over the bar to make the jump. It's not a straightforward leap.
What's the conclusion you're trying to draw then? Because I get the statement that men have much higher libido, but are you trying to say that you want men to stop making themselves more available? Or are you trying to say you want men to make themselves available in more creative ways?
See, I don't know if I need to make a statement, right?
Okay.
Like I don't think I need to make a directive here. But more the observation is, the question is, all men are essentially complaining about the lack of sex that they have. And all women are complaining, majority of women are complaining that, like particularly married women. I guess this comes from a married perspective. And all of my stuff is based in a kind of a world that you guys aren't in yet. That like these relationships, the number one problem is this, right? And it's like it's seen as the number one reason for breakups. So maybe there's something in addressing that, in contextualizing it in the framework and putting it in the frame of marriage breakdowns. But then again, right, everything that I've got on page 1, right, so I do 2 pages, 3. So the first page is all just bits, right, that are literally disconnected bits. The second is all personal. The third is just one-liners. And the fourth is kind of a flavor bin, where anything that catches my eye that I think that could go in somewhere goes in. So nothing is a bad idea up here. I think I'm listening on my headphones here. Are you still hearing me?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
But so maybe
there's something about
that needs to be done.
When you were talking about it, I thought of just the idea of like inflation. and about how like when currencies lose value, it causes a financial crash, and that can be like, because that's what it is. It's like you can't just print more money because then the money
the value of
loses
money
value.
goes down. Yeah.
Yeah, well, here's another thing on that, since you bring that up, right? On my podcast, I do a coronavirus podcast, and I had the leading economist in Ireland on. And let me pop in these different headphones here, but he came on and said that the government should just print more money.
Yeah.
Print more money, put it in people's accounts. That was his answer to the financial issues that the state is facing. Print more money and literally lodge it to people. So I just thought that was a really funny idea. It's called helicopter money, is the concept, and we're all sitting here going, "That'd be fucking amazing." Yeah,
But
right?
does that not fuck everything up?
No,
because it encourages spending,
consumer confidence.
But is it not like just them using their budget to give people money, not like printing more money and causing inflation?
It's the exact same thing as printing more money, because it's releasing more liquidity into the country. So essentially, you put a zero on everybody's bank account, and obviously that isn't how it's done. Because I was like, how the fuck would that work? I said, that sounds like something my son would suggest. Why can't they just print more money? and he was like, well, sometimes kids have the answers. And he said, like, what they're doing for the self-employed is helicopter money.
Yeah.
They're going, what did you earn the last 2 years? Well, here's $4,500. Like that is just money for free. I think that's a really funny idea, though, Vittorio. I think that the supply and demand element of it can be stretched out a bit further.
With the inflation element, that's a nice way of looking at it, definitely.
So the other, do you want another bit?
Yeah, go for it.
We'll do another bit.
So I found in an old notebook that Donald Trump is the only person who, if he was responsible for thousands of people dying, he'd find some way of spinning it that it was a positive thing.
Yeah.
I have this in a notebook that he would say an awful lot of the people were elderly, many were suicidal.
Yeah.
And that is what's happened. Like, he has been making that argument. Prior to all of this, I had another note in a notebook, which was he's the most unflappable man.
Oh yeah.
In the world. Like, nothing phases him on that level. No. Like, I admire the man. I phased very easily. If I go to a bank machine or a card machine that I have to put my PIN in, and on screen it says contacting your bank, there's a part of me that goes, oh fuck. I panic when I say contacting your bank. This man doesn't.
Man, he's unbelievable.
Like, literally nothing. I find that fucking. If nothing phased you, like zero.
It's mad.
It's not even a bit yet, but it is just like he's so demonized that I guess what I'm trying to do in terms of writing about Trump is to find things that I admire in him, to go the other direction of people going, he's such a moron. I'm like,
actually, because if you imagined up a superhero, that is one quality you'd want in them.
Oh yeah.
It's for them to be completely unflappable.
Yeah. So the other thing I wrote about him was that it's so hard to do jokes about him because talking about him is a complete waste of time. Right? In the same way as talking about the rain in Ireland is a complete fucking waste of time.
Yeah,
it's always going to be there. There's nothing you can do about it. And talking about it is going to make it worse because you hadn't probably noticed that it was raining until somebody came up to you and went, fucking hell. Like, I was in Scotland just before all this, doing gigs in Glasgow, and it was pissing rain, and I got in a cab after going to a laundrette to get my clothes done. I jumped in with the bag of clothes. I said to the cab driver, "Oh, what a shite day!" And he, like, literally, without missing a beat, looked back at me in the mirror and went, "What the fuck did you expect?"
He's right.
He was annoyed at me for even referencing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way, just as you're saying that, and it's probably just by happenstance that you've done those two bits in a row, is there a way that those link where you're like, there's almost no point talking about the male libido because it's just there. It's there. You don't like. It's just there. She don't like. There's no like. It's that thing of you saying like a woman doesn't need to knock on the door because the door is fucking wide open if it's a man. And it's the same with Donald Trump because like all you're doing is reminding people of just like a constant. You're just going like it's like going, oh yeah, gravity works, and they go, oh yeah, so it does.
Yeah. There's definitely they're probably there. Like I had this thing that I also had because a lot of these were notes pre-lockdown, right? And one of the notes was conspiracy theorists are fucked because of Donald Trump. Because if he knew about it, he'd say it.
Oh yeah.
And he did, didn't he? With the disinfectant stuff. No, it's not a conspiracy theory, but he did say it.
Yeah. Like you can't really say that Area 51, this, that, and the other, because he knows
everything.
all of the secrets. And he can't keep them quiet. Like he is that guy that don't tell him. He will fucking tell.
Maybe it just takes a direct question. Has anyone ever been like, Donald, are there aliens? And he'd be like, yes, there are brilliant aliens. There are the best aliens.
Yeah, like I don't know if like I've been kind of, this would never happen, but is there an argument for having kind of, instead of the debates, the presidential debates, just a quiz?
Like a pub quiz.
Just
guess the
they've
intro.
Got to buzz in. They're on their podiums and they've got to buzz in. We just start with basic maths. Then
and they get eliminated. You're the weakest
and then
candidate.
Go to capital cities, literally capitals.
Yeah, funny.
I like.
How many grandkids do you have for Joe Biden?
Yeah, he definitely has raised a question of like, because to me Barack Obama didn't fulfill the American dream because he was really suave, handsome, cool, smart. He didn't tell me anything was possible. Donald Trump makes me believe anyone, anyone, literally. Yeah. I don't care how fucking stupid you think you are. You can be president.
Yeah. Obama doesn't seem attainable.
Obama's too good. He's too much. That's unreal. That's why the NBA is not a plausible dream to have.
Yeah.
Donald Trump made the White House real.
Donald Trump becoming president is like, it's like when Spud Webb won the dunk contest. That's what it's like.
Yeah. Fuck, I didn't know somebody that high could do it. Yeah. Like I've so much shit up there. Like, there's one in particular that I'm sure Vittorio will understand better than most. Maybe you can tell me, Eshaan, if this has any mileage in the UK. And that is that the original conspiracy theorists were old Irish men in pubs.
Yeah.
Because old Irish lads in pubs will be watching the news and they'll go, the news, they have a few phrases that they use that are really conspiracy, the origin of conspiracy theory. One is, sure, you wouldn't know what to believe.
That's so good. I've heard that so many times.
Actually, you wouldn't know what to believe. Like, they just don't trust the system whatsoever.
No.
And one my dad does, which fucking kills me. But now, like, I really miss him so bad, and I really, I'd kill to hear him say this. There'll be an investigation on the news. We'll be watching Crime Watch UK, or Crime Line as they call it back in Ireland, and they'll go. Now we have a report from Carlow where a young woman.
Oh, did we lose you there for a second? I think I lost you for about 5 seconds there, Jarlath. So I got to a young woman and then it cut out. I don't know what you said.
A young woman is missing from Carlow. Her name is Kelly O'Sullivan, and she hasn't been spotted since work last Friday. And my father will always pipe up with, at the end of it, something definitely happened there.
Something definitely happened there.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's when police are involved.
I had one about a similar thing where these missing persons reports where it's like the disappearance has been described as uncharacteristic by his family, and I'm like, yeah, unless he's a fucking magician. Like there's of course it's uncharacteristic. He's disappeared.
Uncharacteristic. Yeah. They really don't know how to word those things sensitively, do they? And the other one that I've been working on, Vittorio, you can probably help me with a little bit more and tell me if there's any truth in this, Eshaan, is... so I had a joke in the last show, which was British people, like, Brexit fucked them off so much because they're obsessed with leaving. Like, they're obsessed...
You're frozen again.
Europe. They're obsessed with leaving as their thing, right? You got me now?
Yes, you're back.
Yeah, so the guts of the joke was the British people are obsessed with leaving, and Brexit pissed them off because they were told it was going to be easy, right? Told it was going to be fast. But Irish people know better than anybody. The British people take fucking ages to leave. Right? That's the joke, right?
Yeah, very good.
But the extension of it here is that Irish people are the opposite. Our preoccupation are welcome.
Yeah. I mean,
there's a few connectivity issues.
We're having actual technical problems. I mean, it was inevitable. This is lockdown comedy.
Yeah. Oh, he's frozen completely.
Jarlath's completely frozen. Jarlath looks like Han Solo.
Yeah. Maybe that is a juncture for us to end because it's frozen completely.
I've got some audio every so often.
I know we got to go as well. I know you've got to go. I know that we've got to call it a night here, and I think that's probably a sign.
Yes. The Wi-Fi gods are telling us to fuck off.
Yeah. And I've just realised it's 9:15. I have to get my little boy to bed.
Yes, absolutely.
But it also goes to show that there's so many bits
and
that
I'll be
comedians
killed.
are sat on.
But guys,
we want to
pleasure.
try and work out, and we don't always get the opportunity. So it's nice to be able to just talk about them.
Yeah, man, brilliant. Love the date. 6 months down the road, and we're still in lockdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't
we'll do a second
wait.
edition. Well, Jarlath, look, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, follow Jarlath on the Instagram at Jarlath Regan _Irishman Abroad. Listen to his podcast, all that crack. I'm plugging for you because you're going to jump around and people might not hear you saying the words. Yeah. But Jarlath's bio is in the YouTube description, and his Instagram's there as well. So check out all of his stuff. If you're here for Jarlath, tune in to Doing Bits Live every Tuesday and Thursday as of this week. So we're up at it twice a week. So do that. And you can follow back on the audio on iTunes and Spotify.
See you, lads.
Have a good one, Jar.
See you later, Jarlath.
And then there was 2.
And then there were 2.
That was great fun. We should wrap it up. Anything
Let's wrap it up.
else to say? That was all good.
No, thanks for joining us. And if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, and give us a little rating as well. That really helps.
Yes, and on YouTube, just click like on the video. Sure, why wouldn't you? And click subscribe on the channel.
Lovely.
Thank you very much. This has been Doing Bits. End stream.